Okay, looks like we're connected here. Today is uh, today is my 51st orbit around the star that we're flying around. The hot, glowing star that's in the sky. It makes the night turn into day, and the day turn into night. Earth's rotating. We'll do chapter 10. Um, it's about the twilight of democracy. So today is August 24th, 2020. A good friend of mine just lost his stepfather, and I was just telling him 200 years from now, everybody's going to be dead, including myself. Uh, we're all going to die a couple hundred years. Uh, the only possible exception to that would be that somebody invents something that causes people to live longer. It's a possibility, but I'd say very limited possibility. Um, so, year 2200 and 2220, everybody watching this video will be dead and I'll be dead. So, okay. Whatever dead means. Uh, okay, so off that, didn't mean to get off the topic here a little bit, but yeah, chapter 10. I talk about chapter 10 here, Twilight Democracy, and the sovereign individual. To summarize this chapter real quickly so that you can go back to watching whatever you want to watch and enjoy whatever you like to enjoy in life. I'm just trying to minimize some windows here. Um, yeah, so Twilight, basically the authors are just saying they don't like. I mean, my perception is they don't like democracy. I think it was a good quote of democracy. It's like the worst form of government, but the only one that actually works. Uh, Given all the other ones that have been experimented with over the tens of thousands or however many millions of years that humans or our prior Australopithecus afarensis, whatever our ancestors were. I think even our earliest ancestors even had gills. I guess all the stages of human evolution occur from conception to as the embryo grows. It's just all the different stages. You can have a tail at one point. It's kind of fascinating. Could spend hours talking about that. Uh, but anyways, so they're basically saying the authors just are just saying my perception is they're biased against democracy. Um, in that most people are stupid and there's only a few smart people. Okay, whatever. Um, I look at democracy as if you have an educated population, or at least a leadership that's smart enough to communicate to uneducated people in a good enough manner, effective enough manner, I think democracy can work. You just have to have good communication systems. But democracy and capitalism are in direct conflict with each other because if you just have a few people own most of the wealth And most of the people are just going to vote against that. They're just going to vote out the few people who have hoarded all the, you know, have hoarded all the money, all the assets. Uh, so that's why capitalism and democracy are in absolute direct conflict with each other. So I don't know if it's this book or another book I'm thinking of. It talks about like Eskimos shaming a hunter that killed too many animals. I'm not sure if this is in this book or not. But anyways, I got a lot of notes here, and I want to try to get through fairly quickly. I got a total number of 22 keynotes. So yeah, to summarize the whole chapter, it's just uh, basically the authors are just saying instead of having a democracy, we'll have a corporation or some private entity, private sovereignty become a new government. And I kind of look at it as just like, okay, do we want to have a McDonald's run the government? I mean, it could also be like end up being like a dictatorship or some dystopian. I don't see that. I don't. My perception does not uh, jibe real well. I mean, merge real well with the authors on this topic a little bit. There's some things I agree with in this chapter, some I don't. But I mean, basically, they're just saying that they see democracy ending and a capitalist corporation will end up being the new sovereignty, new government. See, just like a private business or corporation running government. My general opinion is I don't see that as optimal. So, but I could be wrong. I can always be wrong. The more I read, the more I realize, the less I know. But I don't want to be so open that my brain falls out. I can be open-minded, but I just so open that my brain's like, you know, you got to have some principles of operation. So, okay, so my first keynote, page 327. Prevailing democracies depended on reinforced military power and importance of the masses per historian Carol Quigley in weapon systems and political stability. So I look at it as like, okay, one of the reasons why democracy prevailed was because we humans have a bias towards fear. So it might have been that our early ancestors roaming the grass fields of Africa, probably like the humans that assumed that saw something moving in the grass, and the humans that assumed that was a lion survived, even though maybe 9 times out of 10 it was just the wind blowing. But the bias for a fatal creature, a lion, in the grass was those early humans that basically operated on the assumption that as a fatal danger survived. And then guess what happened? We domesticated the lions and the cats. So interesting, kind of interesting. Um, so that's why cat videos are so popular. Um, that's one thing about these masks. All the people who wear glasses have this dilemma. It's like you have to put the glasses at like a certain angle, or the mask like at a certain position, keep the glasses from fogging up. It's kind of a pain in the butt. But, but once you get it adjusted right, then the glasses don't fog up anymore. Um, so I guess what I'm trying to get at is because it's easy to scare the masses into building a huge, giant military. So in a democratic organization, you as a control system, a control mechanism is, just like if this is the rudder of an airplane, or tiller of a boat, rudder of a boat, that rudder is kind of controlled by fear. So it's like, okay, all the people in the ship, if there's like a voting system for the rudder, fear would be the most powerful mechanism to control the direction of that rudder. And so, um, that's how prevailing democracies depended on reinforced military power as the importance to the masses. So that's that first point. Okay, the second key point, or second key note I have, page 328, democracy is a twin of communism via resource control by the state. So basically what they're saying is, okay, we got democracy and we got communism, and they're like twins to each other in terms of control of resources by the state. Um, I, it's interesting that we don't have a term called democracism. Democracism, like there's communism and there's no democracism term. Um, yeah, I mean, I guess communism was more. Uh, I don't know. I mean, I'm not sure why the authors call these as twins. They're just saying that democracy was more efficient. I look at it as democracy just kind of outspent communism. Okay, my next keynote number 3, page 328. Democracy prevailed over communism via greater resource control by military industrial complex state with private ownership of capitalists. You got a capitalist incentive of productivity. Even though private ownership is subject to eminent domain and tax lien foreclosures in the United States. Um, but communism also apparently had private ownership. I kind of learned today, a little bit, that there was private ownership allowed under communism too. See, the problem with words is they're so misleading. And words are like signposts, and they're all just pointing in all different directions, depending on your perception of human experience. Your brain has a model of information based on what a word means, and that's just based on your trajectory through life. And so no two words in two human brains are ever going to have the same definition. It's never. I mean, they're not. I mean, they can be definitely close, you know, but especially complex words. I mean, simple words, okay, they're more closely matched. Uh, okay, next keynote number 4, page 336, 330 to 337. Tax-free zones via lease random elections instead of selections of leaders. I thought that was kind of interesting. I think I've heard of this before, where like kind of an interesting idea of where you just randomly select a leader instead of having all these politicians and just some random person named Fred who sweeps the sidewalk at a Taco Bell in uh, Tucson, Arizona, becomes president. Uh, it'd be an interesting effect on the system. It kind of reminds me of the Monte Carlo stochastic process. Where, you can end up with some interesting results. Um, okay, next keynote number 5, page 338. Authors claim politicians have poor records solving problems than entrepreneurs. Better to pay leaders based on performance, such as flex a wage system in Singapore on basis of economic growth. I mean, I can kind of agree with that on one sense. Um, my next keynote is number 6, page 339 to 340. Authors claim early charismatic politicians lived from the rich to give the poor, and the system suffered from this in the long run. And then keynote number 7, page 340. Authors claim the most talented executives can run faltering governments that paid based on performance. So, in my humble opinion, an executive who is dependent on money as their primary means of motivation is most likely easiest to bribe. So if you got somebody who depends on who just kind of is worships the religion of money, just like this, it's very easy to control that person through bribery. So that's my, and I don't think, I mean, authors didn't really mention that, I mean, but just my perception. Okay, keynote number 8, page 346. Individuals for the first time in human existence will be able to create and protect assets that lie entirely outside the realm of any individual government's territorial monopoly on violence. All right, so I just kind of like cryptocurrencies. Um, uh, with proprietary keys instead of equation-based keys. Yeah. So I mean, okay. So my next keynote, number 9, page 348. Even the most extraordinary breakthroughs in technology and the most ingenious applications of the internet will not save us from social breakdown, crime, or injustice. Only politics, which is the art of how we organize ourselves, can even begin to take on such tasks. It's page 348. The author's quoting another author. And I say, I'll be cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin likely lower the return on violence because of lack of geographic location of blockchains. Um, okay, so next keynote number 10, page 349. Laws are naturally imposed instead of politically imposed, always existed by nature as a standard of moral conduct. Okay, I see a lot of laws. I kind of are written based to optimize power structures, and just like if you've read the book George Orwell's Animal Farm, the rules have a tendency to get changed, especially if somebody's seen to be successful and it becomes a threat to the power structure. The power structure adapts by just changing the rules. It's kind of like moving the goalposts around. Basically, a rigged game, because the rule makers are the ones. I guess there's a saying that who owns the gold writes the rules. Um, I look at those as it's all perception based, and also enforced by the laws of physics. Um, Next keynote number 11, page 351. What we now think as a political leadership, which is always conceived in terms of a nation state, will become increasingly entrepreneurial rather than political in nature, market driven. Okay, so next keynote number 12, page 352. Democracy will support novel and even drastic means of squeezing resources out of anyone who appears to be prosperous, such as presumptive taxation, holding wealthy persons to outright ransom. Yeah, I mean, democracy and capitalism is direct. They are in absolutely direct conflict with each other. But you got to look at what is wealth. I mean, it's basically. I mean, you look at a tribe of cave people, and okay, yeah, you have one hunter that kills all the deer nearby better than everybody else in the cave. So, but if that person is a total asshole, the people in the cave just say "fuck you," and I'm gonna go. We may not be that good at hunting deer, but we still can live without you. So fuck off and go on your own. No, so that could. I mean, uh, so I mean, so then the question comes, what benefit does that expert hunter get from being ostracized from the tribe? So they just less access to things within the tribe. Uh, so I don't know. I'm just going off topic a little bit here, but it just. I mean, if somebody's participating in a organization, the rules of the organization govern structure, the framework of the participation. Democracy allows for the adaptation of the rules, and that's kind of what I look at democracy as kind of an adaptive system. Uh, Adaptive system optimized by the benefits given to the group, the majority, as opposed to the minority. Okay, next keynote number 13, page 352. Nation state reactionaries believe that all income should be considered revenues of the community, meaning that it should be at the disposal of the state. Okay, yeah. I mean, I look at these problems. It's kind of like you kind of got to define what is ownership. When we're all dead, it doesn't. What does it mean? Okay, I mean, you don't take anything with you when you're just a bunch of dust in the wind. I get your kids. I guess your genetic beneficiaries is kind of like what it is the community that the mass the biggest wealthiest person wants to try to send to. So I mean, yeah, it's good to look at these things in terms of biology and Darwinian selection and that sort of thing. I mean, it's good to try to understand what these things mean. And the authors, I have to admit, the authors do a pretty good job at that. I mean, referencing Darwin's law. Um, you try to understand human behavior. Okay, so next keynote number 14, page 353. Democracy today is not possible without a politics that can control global economic forces. Because without such control, it won't matter who people vote for. Corporations, corporations will rule. Um, this is a big assumption of this is geographic independence. I mean, there's some things that are local. I mean, a lot of things that are just strictly local, and like I can't hire a plumber from India until you have a internet robotic control, remote control, or so. I kind of disagree with this quote from the author. But all right, so next keynote number 15, page 353. The triumph of markets over compulsion. Um, so I mean, the authors are kind of saying it's better if people have total free control over what they do. Nobody wants to be controlled. In general, um, they're just saying that the free markets do a better job at uh, than I guess in optimization. Free markets do a better job than compulsion. I don't know if I necessarily agree with that because a lot of times free markets don't account for externalities, like say for instance, a company that's let's just say a gold ore raw ore producing factory that produces converts raw materials to gold. Well, one of the key parts of that process is using cyanide. So, and then that they don't account for the cost of putting cyanide in the drinking groundwater. So that's an externality that's not realized. So markets don't always account for contextual problems or unrealized costs. Okay, next keynote number 16, page 353. It used information technology used for market price optimization. Automation reduces the need for managers. So yeah, I agree with that. Um, okay, next keynote number 17, page 354. Information age will tend to be the age of independent contractors without jobs with long-lasting firms. Yeah, that's kind of what's happening right now. It's just the idea of same job with. I do have one friend though that's stayed in the same job for. God, it's probably 32 years almost. It's a long time. Stay at one job, which I admire. Uh, so I yeah, I don't know. Each their own. I think there is something to be said about like say for instance, if you want, if you're a pro-family person, if you have long-term permanent jobs, that's much better for families. This whole idea of no long-term jobs is is more anti-family. But that's kind of how I read that. Next keynote number 18, page 354. The very process that will enable individuals to escape from domination by politicians will also prevent rule by corporations. Okay, so the authors are saying that information technology will not only free people from government, but free people from corporations. Okay. Um, I don't know if I agree with that. In my humble opinion, Adam Smith's vile maxim that Adam Smith talks about is still not overcome to an end result in the monopoly power. Because you can have one success. It's a paradox of success. You have one great corporation that's genius corporation does everything exactly right, and all of a sudden just takes over the entire planet, and you know then you may not have any other choices. So you gotta hope that's a good one. What if it becomes changes and then becomes bad? So I I think this is kind of like an author's fantasy type thing. Okay, next keynote number 19, page 355. In the future, when information will be freely tradable anywhere, tradable anywhere on the globe, the power of governments to insulate local businesses from global competitive pressures will be minimal. Um, yeah, yeah, that's happening now. Except again, I can't hire until I can hire a plumber from India or from China or Czech Republic to unclog a toilet here in Arizona. That is not true right now. Okay, because local businesses, blue collar workers in the United States do not have to experience what a lot of white collar workers have experienced, unless you're working in a military industrial complex. Um, is global outsourcing a lot of intellectual work, but it's challenging to outsource hands-on labor um, until someone develops telerobotics, really affordable telerobotics, where a person can just log into their virtual reality robot or avatar plumber, avatar electrician, avatar roofer, avatar framer, carpenter, tile layer, street sweeper, landscaper. Until that happens, uh, local businesses aren't insulated. I mean, local businesses are of hands-on work are insulated, but I mean for intellectual work, it's just like it's power of governments to insulate that is minimal now since the internet age. Okay, next keynote number 20, page 356, privatizing transportation infrastructure via tolls. Um, Basically, kind of saying it's more optimal to do that. I um, I don't know. I mean, the governments have tolls too. I mean, there's a bridge in San Diego. I think it's called the Coronado Bridge. It had a toll on it for many years. It was a government-built bridge, eventually, after a certain number of years, the bridge paid for itself. And so what happened was they just removed the toll, so then it becomes free. Because I guess they collect enough money such that not only is the bridge paid for, but the maintenance of the bridge is already paid for. Maybe on interest payments or something. And so, but here's an interesting question: is to ask why isn't Japan kicking America's ass in high-speed trains? I mean, America, we're like third. The United States is like a third world country when it comes to trains. We just have these slow trains, freight trains that go over these old 100-year-old bridges that collapse, which just happened in my city recently. Um, and so we don't have high-speed trains. We have slow trains in America. Might have been partly because, maybe the reason that is the large corporate interests of airplane manufacturers didn't want to have competition with high-speed trains, and so they basically got control of Congress to not, want to spend money on high-speed trains, or car manufacturers didn't want competition with high-speed trains, so they got grabbed Congress and basically influenced them that way. So you got all these different forces trying to battle each other, and we still have slow trains. I'd rather have a fast train, like really fast, just fly through a vacuum. Like what Elon Musk is doing is great. I love that idea. But you really kind of need government cooperation to really get a kick-ass high-speed train system throughout the United States. But if you could power a train system on solar power, you just put fucking panels on. Excuse me for my foul language, but you know, just put panels all the way along the track, so you get your own power system right there. Batteries when it's nighttime and cloudy, you just pack a bunch of batteries. I mean, it's just we don't have to use any fossil fuel. You just have a vacuum tube train like Elon Musk and just have it all renewable energy. And you can get from Los Angeles to New York in, I don't know, an hour, really fast, faster than an airplane because you're going through a vacuum. When you're going through a vacuum, you don't have any air resistance like an airplane does. Okay, so you can go faster. But because we're a capitalist-dominated country, we don't want to be advanced, do something cool like that. We're just kind of backwards. Um, so I'm showing you a little bit of my bias now. It's just, yeah, governments are able to take bigger, greater, bolder risks than small or even big capitalists. Governments have the capability of taking bigger, bolder risks to do to have great failures and great successes. Um, as an example, Apollo 1, three astronauts, Ed White, Gus Grissom, Roger Schaff, they died in a fire. That was a great failure for those three great men. Um, one of them, who basically feared of losing his opportunity to be an astronaut, didn't complain about the wiring. The not uh, not a robust wired spacecraft, robustly wired, and yeah. So, but the great success ended up being, I mean, they were stepping stones to actually making it all the way to the moon, to the bold step, which was Apollo 8, basically crossing the ocean of space to the moon. All right, so I didn't mean to get off topic so far, and I kind of lost my place here. Let's see, where am I at? Individual escape from domain. So yeah, ruled by corporations. Oh yeah, private. Okay, so keynote number 21. Almost done here. Page 356. A government that lacks an unchecked ability to confiscate the income and property of its citizens would be unable to finance participation in another great power conflict like World War II. Um, I disagree with that. I like the optimism. I love the optimism. I hope that we don't have a World War III. I think Albert Einstein was talking about would be fought with sticks and stones. Oh no, World War Four. Yeah, three. No, four. The war afterward. Um, the reason why I say that is the United States government can print its own money, or mint its own coin. Right now, what the way it operates is a central privately owned bank called the FedEx Reserve. It's like FedEx. It's not no more federal than FedEx. The Federal Reserve is no more federal to printing money than FedEx is to moving packages around. It's a private corporation. Stocks of the big banks like Wells Fargo or Bank of America, they all own stock in the Federal Reserve. So I don't own stock in the Federal Reserve. I can't buy stock in the Federal Reserve. But anyways, uh, the government does have the power to mint more wealth than any individual has. But then that currency is based on how much it can buy. So but here's the thing: is oligarchy does not want the best people, the highest skilled individuals employed by the government, because they don't want their money to have to compete with that. And so that's how, yeah, they don't want the government to have the best people. You see, in my opinion that uh, is the people that should be needs to be paid the highest are the teachers, right? The reason why I say this is the teachers are what transfers the skill set to the most number of people, which optimizes your leverage of capabilities of our civilization. And so, but instead, what we have is the private industry has the best, has basically kind of taken that away, and so that leverage is smaller. Um, it may not be used for the most optimal things. Okay, so the next keynote number 22 is the last keynote, page 357. Governments can be run entrepreneurially, according to the authors, as competitive territorial clubs. In my humble opinion, there's a great paradox of success: is the winner takes all. Okay, so capitalism to the extreme ultimately ends in communism. In other words, one monopoly global corporation could end up like Adam Smith's vile maxim. So I I think it's just the authors seem to want to like take the model of a business and the model of government and try think that they're interchangeable. It's kind of like trying to fit a round peg into a small square hole. I just don't think they're the same type of structures because a corporation is generally just a it can be a dictatorship. Democracies, but democracies can become dictatorships if you're not careful, like what happened in Germany. Um, I mean, I think what's critical about democracies is you have an educated population. So, um, so that is all my notes for chapter 10 of this book. And there's only one more chapter left, and then there's like some other weird. We got some other weird parts at the back here. Let's see. Just uh, some afterward thing they talk about, and then there's resources for achieving independence. So I can tell you my opinion on that. Um, so that's it. Uh, I hope you enjoyed this chapter 10. I just kind of it's good to read books of people you don't agree with because otherwise uh, you're just gonna reinforce your own perception. But if you get somebody else's opposite perception, you can kind of learn some new things potentially. I mean, like one of the things I learned is about the post office making a law against faxes, which I think was interesting. Um, I mean, overall, I think this book is pretty good. I mean, I kind of like it, even though I disagree with a fair amount of it. Um, so that's it. I don't want to take up too much of your time, and don't forget to wear a mask. Actually, good news today in Arizona: 0 deaths according to the data, 0 fatalities for the COVID-19 for Arizona. It's the first day I've seen that in a long time. I don't know if the person died was a 2,000-year-old man or something. Uh, they don't give that data out. I wish they'd kind of provide that too. Um, Still about 300 cases, so still got a long way to get down to 0 cases. With school starting up, the caseload might go up. That's my thought. Probably what will happen is if they try to, people stop wearing the masks. It's like, okay, as I said before, it's like, yeah, there's always going to be somebody. But actually, what I've really observed, I'm kind of impressed. I'm amazed that it seems like last few weeks or almost a month now, I haven't seen one person inside the store that hasn't worn a mask. So I mean, everybody's wearing a mask, which is pretty amazing. It's almost like now, like when you walk into the store, if you don't have a mask, you basically look like your private parts are sticking out. it's that's how interesting that feeling. It's like you don't have your mask. It's like you're walking naked in the store. uh, so it's interesting how things change. Um, but hopefully it won't be too long before you don't have to wear them. I mean, that we can remove these masks and not have to wear them in the stores. I don't know if it's going to be 2 years from now or. Reminds me of a Twilight Zone. There was a Twilight Zone where I love Rod Sterling's Twilight Zones. There was one that was like people were wearing no it was one person that was wearing a mask, and I guess there's a woman that was had some facial deformity, and they didn't in the episode they didn't show anybody else's faces until like a certain point. And so they were like doing a bunch of surgeries on the woman's face to try to make her look quote unquote normal. And then they had her face all wrapped up in these like a mummy kind of. And towards the end of it, they slowly unwrapped her face, and they didn't show her face yet, but then they started to show the doctors' faces. The doctors' faces were really like bizarre looking faces with this weird asymmetry. And that was the normal, okay? And then her face was just like normal in our society. So that was a really interesting Twilight Zone. I can't remember the name of it. But this whole pandemic feels like a long episode of the Twilight Zone. I mean, there wasn't one exactly like this, but Rod Sterling went through like a 50% casualty rate in the Battle of the Philippines, supposedly. So his life experience of trauma kind of teaches a lot of different lessons of what our civilization is kind of the world is experiencing a trauma from this pandemic, uh, and it's definitely not fun. It's not a pleasant experience. It's like Halloween was my favorite holiday as a kid, but it's like, do you want to celebrate Halloween every day? It's like, I'm not getting candy every day. It'd be nice to get candy every day, but then you get cavities and you fund the careers of dentists. Uh, but Halloween was, as a kid, was my favorite holiday. It was a time you could just be somebody else or something else and just have a free character. Um, so wearing a mask kind of reminds me of like Halloween. So it'll be interesting to see what kind of mask people come up with this Halloween. Um, there's a business idea for all you entrepreneurs out there. Start thinking of some great Halloween masks to sell like on Amazon. Because I'd probably buy one. Especially if I can find one that I like. So allows people to kind of express themselves a little bit. Have a little bit of fun in this traumatic virus experience. It's kind of like stop civilization. This is kind of interesting because it's just like a computer virus. Because computer virus kind of slows your computer down, just like my computer is getting slowed down. Skipping frames. It's like the world's kind of slowed down. So it's like the world computer of air travel and football games and basketball games and all those sporting events and parties that kind of like seized up a little bit. And it's just kind of weird that we're going through all this. That's what a vaccine is for. It's kind of like Norton antivirus or McGoffrey. Once you get the vaccine going, then you run the. It's kind of like running the antivirus program. Um, do we trust the vaccine? That's a whole other question. It's like Will I take the vaccine? I had the flu vaccine last year. I usually kind of get a little sick right after the vaccine sometimes, but kind of depends on your sensitivity level. Um, will I take a COVID vaccine? I say yeah, probably. After it's been thoroughly tested, maybe next year. Um, I think vaccines generally make sense. A lot of people, just because like one or two people or maybe 10 people died from one, don't want to take vaccine. But I mean, would you not drive a car if? I mean, why are you? If you have the same, you use the same logic. 40,000 people a year die in car accidents. Because those people die, will you not drive a car? I mean, same thing with the vaccines. Like, yeah, some people died from a vaccine. Okay, yeah, some of them fucked up, but just like, well, you don't drive a car because people die. I mean, you can't control other drivers. You can't control. I mean, you're at a stoplight and somebody smashes into you from behind. You can't control the driver. So I mean, but just because there's a possibility that it could happen, do you don't drive your car? Well, same thing with a vaccine. So I kind of look at it. It's all probability and statistics. Um, so, anyways, gone over about an hour. Looks like. Hope you enjoyed this video and have a good night, good day. Can't wait till this pandemic is over with. I'm sure you do too. I got a lot of work to do tomorrow. Work. Okay.